Previously on, a leg of glazed ham is committing to the bit and is talking about One Tree Hill. God, this show sucks. Dan has a heart attack mid-signing the divorce papers. Let's go! Feels good, man. So apparently she's mad that he's been jacking it for J-Man. Cut back to the boys and they're in the stripped club, straight up jorking it. And by it, well, let's just say, they're peanuts. There is only one Tree Hill. And then I killed myself. Dung, dung.
I don't wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. I don't wanna be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. I'm tired of looking around rooms wondering what I gotta do or who I'm supposed to be. I don't wanna be anything other than me.
Episode 23 of 187. Alright, new season, new semester, new drama, or something. This is around the point when I realized that, as I skim through each episode again to summarize, I have to cherish every time the original intro plays, because you never know what you've got till it's gone, or something. Anyways, the season opens with a pointless dream sequence, because Dan is dead! Woo! And you know what? He's never gonna die. He comes back and the sequence ends with him grabbing Deb's hand and going, "You killed me, you bitch!" before we cut to him in the hospital. Anyways, Jaylee Hames is married to Nathan now, and now they're engaging in Funky Town shenanigans because Jaylee wanted to wait until marriage. Good for them. So let's check in on Keith and Lucas in Charleston. They're doing fine, and oopsie, Lubicus shaved his head. Peyton's having one of her bedroom repainting moments before Brooke shows up for them to have some fun. And oh yeah, Peyton has a letter from Lucas that's for her and Brooke, but she hasn't told her about it yet. Anyways, the newlyweds get a call that Danny Boy had a heart attack, and they haven't told Nathan's parents that they got married, so that's an awkward conversation to have later. But it'll have to wait because Dan is in one of them good old Scott family comas. Anyways, back to the Charleston boys, they find out that Danny is in hospital, so Lucas is having a crisis or something. I don't know. It turns out that Danny Boy has a heart disease called HCM, and it's genetic, and it's a 50-50 chance that the kids have it. So you know what that means. It's time for heart disease, baby! Also, hey, remember how Coach was in the hospital? Mom goes to visit him, and he gives his signature Coach advice, but to a grown woman. He's such a good character. God, we love Coach in this house, and if you don't, get out! Anyways, Peyton and Proke are on a boat talking about boys and being friends. And oopsie, Brooke flashes a group of dudes on a boat and then they go skinny dipping in public. Anyways, Lucas makes his final decision and the boy is heading home. Cut back to the girls and she shows the letter and surprise, surprise, the girls are fighting! Anyways, as the newlyweds go visit Nathan's parents in the hospital, we get a flashback to them asking Jaylee Hames' parents for permission. And nothing could have prepared you for who played Jaylee Hames' dad. Snap back to reality and we have lost cabin pressure because Deb is losing her goddamn mind over Nathan and Jaylee Hames Scott being married. God, she really could use a new drug or something to calm down. Cut back to the past, and it's time to meet Dad. That's right, you might think he's crazy. He doesn't even care, because there is no denying that it's hip to be square. Give it up for Huey Lewis! Anyways, Huey Lewis and Haley's mom are chill as hell and almost immediately give him the go-ahead. Except for them deliberating amongst themselves, where Haley's mom drops the beautiful line of, "Oh, there she is, smoking crack and sleeping in the gutter." Cut back to the girls, and they're still fighting, but they make up because they're best friends. Anyways, Deb is gonna try to tear Nathan and Jaylee Hames apart, so we've got drama for this season. Woo! Anyhows, the girls, Brooke, Davis, and Peyton are on a beach and with the fire going, and they decide to burn Lucas's letters because they're best friends. And then suddenly he shows up like an eldritch horror that's been summoned to destroy the world. They don't know what to make of his sudden reappearance, but you can bet your entire life savings on the fact that they're gonna fight over him again. Also, we see the wedding, and this is truly the moment when Jaylee Hames became Jaylee Hames Scott. Episode 24 of 187. Lucas is laying in the middle of the river court listening to music, and then we see the brothers talking about why Lucas came back and how Dan and they're just living their best lives as brothers. Meanwhile, the girls are contrasted by their thoughts on why Jaylee became Jaylee Hames Scott. And Brooke Davis is super cynical. Also, Peyton just got non-consensually signed up for a dating service by Brooke, but they've got a meeting with the boy himself, so who cares? Lucas has a plan to throw the newlyweds a party and make up with the girls, but he needs their help to do either part of it. So they reluctantly agree because they're trying to ignore how they really feel, especially Peyton. Anyhows, Lucas is back at Tree Hill High and he's reunited with his bestie Jaylee Hames Scott, and Brooke takes a non-consensual ass shot of her best friend so she can post it on her dating profile that shouldn't even exist. Anyways, Jaylee tries to make peace with Deb, but Deb is a bitch and she's on the warpath to ruin their marriage. Lucas heads to the court and recruits the guys to his party patrol. Blah blah shit happens and Keith is paying a visit to Karen because he's on a little self-discovery journey or something. Anyways, we're here and prepping for the party and we get some wacky teen bullshit. Nathan visits his dad in the hospital and he really wants to see Lucas for some reason. So we cut back to the girls preparing for the party and Peyton's taking a shower, which means Brooke is about to commit an actual crime when she takes a non-consensual nude photo of Peyton and posts it to her dating profile. Woo! God, Brooke is the worst. So it's party time and everyone's here. Lucas, Peyton, Brooke Davis, Mouth, Skills, Huey Lewis, everyone. The party is bumping and Jaylee Hames' mom with Huey Lewis have an announcement to make. They bought an RV and they're leaving Tree Hill. Oopsie. The night goes on regardless, and eventually Lucas talks with the girls. They have to try and fib their way through having not read the letter, which he immediately snipes through because he's based like that. Unrelated, but worth noting, this is the last episode that Huey Lewis was in, and this becomes a problem later because it means they had to kill him off screen. So Huey Lewis is canonically dead in the One Tree Hill universe. Anyhows, Lucas gives one of his signature speeches, and we're back to the shots around town, baby! Also, Keith comes back to town and he's running the dealership now that Dan is out of commission. So that's nice. Episode 25 of 187. Moving decorations into the apartment and everyone's talking about throwing a bachelor party for Nathan and a bachelorette party for Jaylee Hames Scott. Tim is talking about hiring a stripper for Nathan's batch party, and Jaylee Hames Scott is tweaking. Anyways, Lucas's subplot this episode involves Keith and the dealership, and Danny emotionally manipulating him. And I don't care. Lucas is tasked with getting Dan to sign some papers, he gets the signatures, and he's told to put them in a lockbox. He does and looks at some photographs, and he finds some pictures of him as a kid. Anyways, back to the Tim party scenario, and it's going terribly. This is in stark contrast to the girls who are having the time of their lives, being dancing queens, young and sweet, only 17, except for the fact that they're all played by some mid-20s women. Back to the boys. Tim bursts out the porno he stole from his dad, and oopsie, it's a sex tape of his dad and stepmom. The girls continue to have a great night, and the boys continue to have a lame night until the cavalry and cops show up. Tim thinks that the stripper has finally shown up, and he engages in some casual it's sexual harassment, and gets absolutely arrested and beaten the hell up. The party is over for the boys, but Lucas gives Nathan the dealership job, and all is well. Well, all was well. Brooke's card declined, and now the girls have to work to pay off the debt at what's now the last stop of the night. That's right, she's a gross poor little nematode now. Lucas goes and secures the job for Nathan. Jaylee Hames Scott comes home and tells her husband all the things she learned that night, and we get them shots around town, montage style. Also, Lucas's mom is going to college to take some business classes. Lucas has to go down a dark road and learn about Dan, and Deb wants to destroy Nathan's marriage, so nothing new has changed. Episode 26 of 187. Brooke wakes up and hears a splash, and what's this? There's a naked guy in her pool, and he's a complete asshole. Aw, One Tree Hill, you shouldn't have. No, really, you shouldn't have. This asswipe is Felix, and I will spare you the pain I feel every time he shows up on screen, except for when absolutely necessary. Anyways, Dan is home now, and he's ultra depressed because he can't ball or anything like that, lol. Peyton pays a visit to Karen, and she wants to set up a new all-ages club to get live music to the people of Tree Hill. Anyways, Lucas and Dan are chatting, and it goes horribly wrong because Dan is an ass. Moving along, it's Karen's first day of college, and she's a smart lady. Back to the high school though, Felix is a worthless, horny piece of shit who almost runs over Lucas. After a needlessly prolonged sequence with the man whore, we're back with the main guys at the river court ballin', and they shoot the shit talking about the new guy / man whore. And back at the Scott apartment, Nathan brought Jaylee Hames Scott a piano because she's a musician now. She kinda gets mad because that money was meant for a car, but she goes shopping with the girls and feels better. Wow, that's the most 2000s solution to that problem. Anyways, Karen's professor Andy is kind of flirting with Lucas's mom, and there might be something going on there. Peyton goes to some bands and get people to play at a potential club, and she kind of kills it, but she's got to do some cocaine to convince the dude running the thing that it's worth it. Welcome to Peyton's 1 to 2 business day long coke addiction. Karen then talks about wanting to start a bar, and oh hey, Peyton needs a bar to turn into her music club, so that's pretty goddamn convenient, ain't it? Blah blah, character shit, blah blah blah. Anyways, Nathan is at the dealership and Keith teaches the boy all sorts of car shit, and they bond because he's a good guy. And also they just save Snap'n marriage by giving him a car for them to work on together. Cut back to Dan, who is just seething over Nathan leaving him. Cut to Peyton, and she gets a call from Karen about the space that they threw Naylee and Jathan's wedding party into the club, and she's on board. Episode 27 of 187. Next day, and suddenly every one of the main characters has an envelope in their lockers inviting them to some bullshit-ass dare night as organized by Felix. Everyone's in for some reason, and you know what? Executive choice here. I'm only going to mention the fact that this episode introduces the fact that Karen and Andy are kind of dating. A woman shows up to the dealership and starts hitting on Keith, and oh yeah, Felix has a sister who kinda has a thing for Lucas, because what girl in this show doesn't have a thing for Lucas, excluding Jaylee Hames Scott. Also, Tim shits on a mini golf course as a part of Dare Night. Screw you, Felix. This is all your episode gets from me. Remember when the show was about basketball? Where's Coach? I miss Coach. I miss him a lot. Episode 28 of 187. Lucas reading shit at us narration is back! Anyways, Felix is a gross, creepy pervert. He kinda harasses his sister, hits on Brooke, and we cut to other shit. Speaking of gross, creepy perverts, Peyton meets one at the record store. He's an asshat named Chris Keller, and Chris Keller speaks about Chris Keller in the third person. So, remember the last episode recap when I asked where Coach was? He's in his office, and we get to see him again. Thank God he's back, but he's kinda angry, and it makes me sad because there is no basketball season. Blah blah, Lucas continues to be a good guy. Andy thinks Lucas is a 6-year-old. Nathan has been invited to a 3-month special basketball boot camp. Brooke Davis says the truest thing she's ever said, being, quote, being poor and horny is no way to get through life. And she starts a friends with benefits relationship with Felix, except there is no friends and it's only benefits. Coach is going through an emo phase, but don't worry, he'll come back to his senses and they'll be ballin' again. Brooke's parents are selling all of her shit because they're poor now, like me grammar. Brooke Davis loses her dollhouse and then gets hose mad. and has angry sex with Felix like an idiot. Anna, Felix's sister, flirts and has a date with Lucas. Keith has a date with that dealership lady. Her name is Jules. And Jaylee and Peyton try to find talent for the show. It goes horribly wrong, but Jaylee Hames Scott's voice is heard and Chris Keller overhears their argument. Dude, I'm gonna be honest. Fuck Chris Keller. All my homies hate Chris Keller. Anyways, cut back to Karen and Andy for a split second because she lied. There are actually 2 Tree Hills, one in North Carolina and the other in New Zealand. Just thought you should know. Anyways, Nathan and Jaylee have some marital things and he convinces her to perform at the show. Anna goes home and oopsie, Felix is a worthless piece of shit again by bullying her about seeing Lubisky. Lol. Speaking of Lubisky, Karen comes home and she's at the table by the door and he does the whole "your mother and I have been very worried about you" thing by sitting there in the dark and then turning the light on when the door opens. Shots around town like usual, and after Peyton finds a name for the club, Mr. Cocaine Man shows up again. Also, Felix is using mouth as a Cyrano de Bergerac to win over Broke Davis, and God, I hate it here. My pain is sharp and severe, and I do not wish for a better world for anyone. Episode 29 of 187. My pain continues, and so does Peyton's, because she has to recruit Chris Keller out of shame. Lucas and Anna kinda de-escalate their relationship a bit, and meanwhile, she meets Peyton, and she's kinda making eyes at her. Ain't that wacky? Anyways, Brooke overhears the concept of a writer from Peyton, and she makes one to give Felix, so he knows his goddamn place. Anyways, wacky shenanigans occur, Peyton's stressed about the club opening, and Lucas comforts her because he's always there to save her. Andy makes the rounds and still doesn't know that Lucas is 6'2". He eventually meets the boy, and then Karen has to break the news that Lucas is in fact a 17-year-old varsity basketball. Lucas and Anna dance, and Felix goes and ruins his sister's date. Who could have seen that coming? Besides everyone. Speaking of shit everyone saw coming from a mile away, Chris Keller bails because he's a dick, but it forces Jaylee Hames Scott to perform for the club. She plays a banger show. Eventually, Felix gets pissed and starts a fight with Lucas. Lucas would proceed to yuck him up, but Uncle Keith tosses Felix out before he can really get into it. Blah blah, life goes on, and Chris Keller is up to no good. More bullshit happens, but it doesn't really matter. Actually, one of it matters because we get a little bit of a cliffhanger when Peyton encounters the cocaine promoter. Felix then approaches Lucas's house and threatens him. Then we get credits. Episode 30 of 187. The Scott brothers are off to go see an NBA game, so Brooke Davis and Haley James Scott and Peyton are gonna have a sleepover. Wow, it's just like middle school. Speaking of just like middle school, Peyton got busted for doing coke by Karen. You know, like every middle schooler has. Jaylee Hames Scott goes off to see her husband and brother-in-law off. They leave, and the only song they have in the car is Holiday by Dr. Cosmos. They'll bond over this shitty song, and just remember you can't change what's in the tape player. That's subtle foreshadowing for way, way later. Just ignore me. Lol. Anyways, Peyton and Anna go to the apartment to find it completely open and trashed, and they discover Brooke and Felix engaging in some funky town shenanigans in Jaylee Hames' bed. Brooke is back to being a jackass again. Anyways, big important note. My title for this season, as you know, is Shitty Ryan Adams Covers, and you're about to find out why. Jaylee Hames Scott is in a recording studio and she's singing When the Stars Go Blue, which has the same problem as The Man Who Sold the World by David Bowie, where it gets covered and the cover version does so much better that the original version gets kind of buried. Much to her credit, she's actually singing, but goddamn does this cover suck, and you're about to hear it at least 700 times, and don't worry, every single time that I remember it plays will be added to the counter. It's a good song, but I just wish I was listening to Firecracker or La Cienega Just Smiled instead. The slumber party goes horribly wrong because Jaylee Hames Scott gets pissy! And the girls are fighting! Anyhow, the basketball trip served another purpose because the boys have to go get tested for HCM since it's a genetic thing. Also, Karen and Andy kind of fall out. Anyways, back to the girls, and they're making up and talking about life and helping each other. They chat and learn about each other, have a pillow fight, and by the end of the night, they're all friends. Whoa. Anyways, Lucas refuses to get the HCM test. Also, Carney and Andy have some funky town shenanigans. Anna eventually heads home and she chews out her brother, and it feels good to see. Nathan got the results of the test back. He definitely has breast cancer. He definitely doesn't have breast cancer, or HCM actually. Lucas, well, he still doesn't know. Episode 31 of 187. Open up with Jaylee Hames Scott making Nathan some breakfast in bed, and they're going to go to prom. Brooke, Davis, and Peyton are shopping for prom dresses, and they start talking boys and that shit before Peyton has to bail, and oh god damn it, Felix is back. Lucas, forever the good guy, tells Felix that he's taking Anna to the formal, I guess it's not prom, whatever, too late to change it, whether he likes it or not, and whatever other expositional bullshit occurs. Basically, they're on thin ice again. Speaking of that thin ice, Lucas is starting to get hounded about taking that HCM test. Peyton gets given a box of CDs and there's a little cocaine in there for her, as a treat. Anyways, Jaylee Hames Scott gets guilt-tripped into performing with Chris Keller at Trick, Peyton's club, next weekend. But she's got to go practice with that worthless bastard, tonight, even though the formal is tonight. Wow, such riveting conflict. Anyways, Peyton's formal dress is her dead mom's dress from her formal, and her, Brooke, Davis, and Anna are all getting ready together. How nice. We get a little montage, and oh look, it's the 4th time a Ryan Adams song has been played. Sure, it's When the Stars Go Blue again, but it does go on the count. Anyways, it's formal time, and everyone's here. Brooke chooses to have her first dance with Mouth, as you should, and oh shit, it's the 5th addition to the Ryan Adams song counter. God damn it! Anyways, Tim has a plan to steal the keys to Nathan's parents' beach house for the after party. Anyways, y'all know that it's time for Ryan Adams song number 6 when we cut back to Jaylee Hames Scott. CK is a piece of shit, and he kept Jaylee Hames Scott way later than she was supposed to be there. Anyways, Mouth is about to fuck shit up for Felix and Brooke when he reveals the whole burger rack thing. Also, Anna discovers Peyton's cocaine vial, and that's not super relevant yet. Peyton and Anna are talking, but Felix is at the table, so when Peyton gives Anna a compliment, Felix drops a homophobic remark, and don't worry, it's not the only time he'll do this. What a necessary character. I love the 2000s. Anna immediately gets super defensive, and oopsie, we all know what that means. God, I love the 2000s. I'm being sarcastic, in case you haven't caught on. Anyways, Peyton's all alone now when the slow dance starts, so she's ready to do some cocaine to escape the pain, until Karen gives her some confidence to go back out there. Also, Mouth tells Brooke the truth, and Brooke gets pissy! And now when Jaylee Hames Scott finally shows up to the formal, and her and Nathan are awarded what's essentially prom king and prom queen, we get, that's right, the 7th point on the Ryan Adams song counter, and it's by someone who isn't Jaylee Hames. Actually, the subtitles lied to me, just like Jaylee did to Nathan when she recorded with Chris Keller. They head to the after party, and he's pretty pissed, and they get into an argument, and he storms off. Anyway, Anna goes home when she wants to get it on with Lucas, and he very politely says no. We'll find out why later. At the after party, someone spills wine on Peyton's dress, and she has a complete mental breakdown. Then Brooke finally breaks things off with Felix, and I cheered. Sadly, he'll still be here. Peyton's at home trying to clean her dress in vain, and then she considers doing some coke, before not and just breaking down even more. Peyton rips some sketches and stuff, then Anna comes in and they talk, and so Anna initially talks about the coke, but then they just hang out and talk into the night. Jaylee discovers that Nathan lied about not getting into basketball camp and all that jazz. Episode 32 of 187. Someone throws a brick through Brooke's windshield, Lamau. Nathan stays over at Lucas's, Anna finally comes home, and Felix is being homophobic again. Yeehaw! Nathan heads home and talks to Jaylee. Brooke and Lucas talk and walk, and Felix sees them and jumps to conclusions about friendship, since apparently dudes can't have female friends without wanting to bone them, I guess. And, oh yeah, someone wrote a slur on Peyton's locker. I wonder who would have done this. Gosh, it's almost like every sign points to Felix, and spoilers, yeah, no shit it was him. He's the worst. Brooke and Peyton talk. Brooke says, and I directly quote, boys love lesbians, which isn't how that should work, and isn't how that works? I don't know, man. Anna starts avoiding Peyton and things are awkward. Nathan pays a visit to Chris Keller and he just decks the rat bastard, which was my power fantasy every time he's on screen. Lucas visits Peyton and he comforts her because he's just the best guy, but then she flips out on him about him not being a friend, and he drops, quote, "Whatever you think, I really do care about you, Peyton," before he gives her the space she wants. Lucas heads home, and Karen gets pissy. And it's because he straight up lied to her about him taking the test, so she revokes his ability to play. Even the River Court boys won't let him play. Damn. It's so over for Lucas. Even Dan is telling him to do the right thing and get the test, so you know that's how bad he messed up. Anna goes to visit Peyton, and Peyton begins being an activist, which Anna misinterpreted as meaning she's actually gay, and this will be important later. Lucas fixes Brooke's windshield for free. Anna comes by, and she and Lucas drive to school together. Oh yeah, Peyton wears a shirt with the same slur from her locker on its approval point. Also, Mouth confesses to breaking Brooke's windshield to Lucas. Surely this won't get brought up ever again. Peyton does a little activism and she gets suspended for her actions. So, it turns out that Mouth drank an entire bottle of booze and he broke Brooke's windshield, and Mouth is going to confess the truth to Brooke Davis. Blah blah, Nathan told Lucas's mom about the HCM test. Blah blah, Lucas fights him over it. Blah blah, Brooke and Peyton are best friends and they talk about how terribly stressed Peyton is over everything, how she misses Jakey, Ginny, and her mother! Etc., etc. Haley visits Chris Keller and he's going on tour, like tonight. Maybe this is a chance for Jaylee Hames to get out there on tour and wait, what the hell, they're kissing? What the hell is going on here? It doesn't matter. She's gonna fight with Nathan and she'll get on that damn tour bus and go on tour with him. Some other shit happens, like it being revealed that Dan hired Jules to get with Keith and break his heart as an act of revenge for him cucking him. And Lucas breaks things off with Anna because he knows he's meant to be with Peyton. To Brooke. He says Brooke like a chump. Seriously, why would you go for Brooke when there's a very attractive and an early 2000s kind of way alt girl that has a good taste in music standing right next to you? Come on, buddy. What are you doing? He wasn't wrong about the lying to himself part, though. Anyways, Peyton goes to buy Coke, and then there he is! It's Jakey, and he's here to rectify his other big mistakey. And yeah, Jaylee Hames gets on that bus to tour, thus leaving Nathan to cope, seethe, and maul on his own. Lucas goes to see Brooke, but she's making out with Felix again, even though they just broke it off. Episode 33 out of 187. Jakey saves Peyton from her attempted coke deal. It turns out that
he orchestrated
Jakey's return, Lucas, but this gets glossed over for the covert baby hiding operation with Jakey. The two clearly have some feels for each other and won't say anything. It turns out that Jaylee Hames didn't get on the bus, and surprise, surprise, Jaylee's sister Taylor just showed up and made herself at home. The husband and wife are fighting. Karen and Deb are fighting over how she slept with Keith and all that shits. Nobody is happy. Also, Taylor is the first girl Nathan had sex with, so there's some tension and shit there. I really don't care. Anyways, the most important thing from this episode is that Anna kisses Peyton because the gay thoughts TM won the battle, and when the feels aren't reciprocated, she runs away. Blah blah, teen dramas and that garbage. Anyways, Felix is here to be a worthless cuck asswipe to Lucas because he makes everything his business. He starts a fight and Lucas knocks him down with a single punch. But Lucas doesn't go any further than that. He acted in self-defense, but Felix battles without honor and humanity, so he trips Lucas, making him slam his head against a bench, and then kicks him while he's down like the worthless little bitch boy that he is. God, I feel like this is a running bit at this point. I don't normally say hard swears in these without censoring them, but really, fuck Felix. He's the biggest piece of shit. Anyhows, Brooke finally breaks shit off with Felix because he's a worthless bastard whore, and Lucas confronts Jules about the whole Dan thing I mentioned earlier. Anyways, Jakey has to go now, but he admits his feelings for Peyton and they head off to Georgia together. Other things happen this episode, but outside of Anna moving out or coming out to Lucas, none of it matters. Moving on. Episode 34 out of 187. Lucas and his mom fight about him not taking the test. Jaylee Hames is emailing Chris Keller. Lucas confronts Keith about the sleeping with Deb thing. Taylor adds to the Chris Keller fire and sends him a message, and everything's going to shit. Lucas keeps refusing to take the test. Jaylee Hames is still talking to Chris Keller, and a signature awkward Scott family dinner with Deb, Dan, Keith, and Jules ensues. Miscellaneous shit about Anna dealing with being bisexual and the W years, Dan with being evil, sisterly bonding shit between Taylor and Haley, and Keith and Jules are getting married. Wow, this show sucks. And before I forget, Brooke got a job as a mascot for a crab restaurant, and she unionizes the mascots to get better conditions, and then she quits her job. Anyhows, Lucas takes the test, and the next day at school, Roke Davis decides to run for student council president. Dan vaguely threatens Lucas, using the fact that he knows about the Jules thing as leverage, and then credits.
Dung, dung. I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. I don't want to be anything other than what I've been trying to be lately. All I have to do is think of me and I have peace of mind. I'm tired of looking around rooms wondering what I gotta do or who I'm supposed to be. I don't wanna be anything other than me.
Episode 35 out of 187.
Brooke starts her presidential campaign, and Dan promises to not tell Keith the truth about Jules if Lucas moves in with him. Nathan then discovers the instant messages with Chris Keller, and everything goes to shit. Also, just kidding, Peyton and Jakey didn't head back to Georgia because they're here now at school. Peyton hugs Lucas and tells him how good of a friend he is for summoning Jakey back to town, and then she goes and confronts Jaylee Hames Scott about the Chris Keller incident. She tries to say the kiss didn't mean anything, but as Peyton has had ingrained into her skull at this point, a kiss always means something. Anyhow, guess who's back again? It's Coach, baby! The hero is back in the story. There's some petty drama surrounding the presidential campaign, the school presidential campaign, but who cares? Lucas lied to his mom about the results of his test because he definitely has HCM. Anyways, Lucas is going to move in with Dan to protect Keith, but he can't tell his mother why. Generic teen shit TM ensues. Lucas helps Brooke with her campaign speech because he's the king of giving speeches, and then oopsie, Felix comes in and he's ready to whine like a little wavy asshole that he is. Oh hey, guess who's back in town for that Trick concert mentioned ages ago? It's Chris Keller, worming his way in like a little nematode. He straight up hits on Jaylee Hames in front of the entire crowd, and it's kinda screwed up. What's more screwed up is that Chris Keller has given Jaylee the chance to go on tour again, and she's gonna do it, Nathan be damned. It ends with Nathan giving her the ultimatum of it's the tour or me, and then he leaves. Peyton and Jakey are living together with Ginny, so they're kinda like a family for now. Or until Nikki comes back or Peyton realizes that Lucas is the one, whichever comes first. Lucas is headed to Dan's and Jaylee Hames Scott chose to go on tour. Nathan is completely alone now, and he's about to get pissy! So he starts destroying the apartment and living like shit. And Lucas has HCM, it's confirmed here, and Dan is paying for the meds. Wouldn't you know?
Episode 36 out of 187.
Day 1 of Lucas living in Dan's house, and Danny didn't tell Deb. Dan is using this as an elaborate plan to get Nathan back. Speaking of, the boy is living in a depression pit, and damn do I feel that. Although I at least bother to take my trash out semi-regularly. Anyways, Nathan finally comes back to school, and he just whips out a beer and starts drinking in class, because he's based like that. And even more based than that is he brought enough to share with the class. That's my boy! Lucas calls Jaylee Hames, but it seems nobody's getting through to her. Anyways, Dan and Deb visit the Nathan depression pit, and Dan wastes no time getting to the verbal abuse. Then Nathan punches Dan, and it feels good. Lucas breaks it up before Nathan can establish the first rule of Fight Club. Some more petty drama over the school election occurs, but who cares? It's all about Nathan's moping. Then there's some election shit where Mouth gives a really heartfelt speech to help Brooke win the election completely out of nowhere, since the other candidate tried to cheat and sabotage Brooke Davis. Brooke wins! Spoiler alert. Anyhows, back to the baby. Our favorite not actually a family is falling apart. Then, guess who finally called Lucas back? Jaylee Hames Scott. She asks about Nathan, and Lucas begins to try and get her to come back, but it doesn't matter because we've got 9 more episodes of this season, so she can't come back yet. That'd be too easy. Peyton and Jakey talk, and they establish their relationship, I guess. I don't really care, but that's because I'm a cynical writer, and even before watching the show, I knew this was going nowhere. Side note, apparently Dan is an avid reader, which no way in hell. Anyways, everyone seems to be doing better, I guess, except for Nathan, who's slowly dying inside because he misses his wife. Speaking of, he gets a Peyton sketch that's very uncharacteristic because it says sometimes they come back, which if you know Peyton, she's very negative and a very melancholic bastard, wouldn't you know it?
Episode 37 out of 197.
It's the time capsule episode, and this action will have consequences. Very, very drastic consequences. Anyways, Felix is back, I guess, and he's throwing a party for Brooke. Throughout the episode, we see what people have been saying on the time capsule recordings, and they still say some funny things, like Anna coming out, or Brooke Davis saying she's probably married to Mouth by the time everyone sees this, and she also flashes the camera and some other wacky shenanigans. Doesn't matter though, this surely won't have any devastating consequences on the next season. Dan and Karen are fighting for custody of Lucas, which is weird considering he's almost an adult. Anyways, party time, and it's huge and full of idiots getting high as hell, and Brooke wants to get the hell out of there as fast as possible. Hell, I do too. Brooke helps a very drunk girl not get sexually assaulted, and she establishes a safe ride system for their school, and it's a very nice thing that we call character growth. She doesn't even like the girl, but she helps her out anyway, which is unheard of in the 2000s. Anyways, Tim's time capsule video is hilarious and such bullshit. He's just lying about how cool he is, and it's actually very funny. Anyways, Nathan goes drunk driving again. Let's go, that's my boy! But he gets pulled over before he can do any damage, and Lucas, ever the hero, switches places with Nathan to cover for him. Nothing bad happens to the Scotts. Just kidding, I lied. They both got arrested. Lucas calls his mom to try and get her to bail him out, but she tells him to go and call Dan and hangs up. Damn. Anyhows, Mouth and Anna break into the school and they start watching the time capsule videos, and really, they're just here to delete Anna's coming out segment. Jakey and Peyton had a date night and they're living together, and we fade out because they start doing the sex. The two jailbirds chat and they start telling each other the truth and become friends again. Wow. Let's wrap this shit up. Dan bails the boys out of jail and the boys do their thing, and Lucas, for the first time in 2B2T history, calls Dan Dad. What a twist! Anyways, the boys are bonding like champions, and they're there for each other. We get the last of the important time capsule things, and I don't really care because this shit show must carry on. We'll carry on. And though the time capsule will be buried, their memories will carry on. Oh, I'm so sorry. I couldn't resist the bit.
Episode 38 of 187.
It's wedding day, and Keith and Jules are gonna do the thing, despite everything with Danny Boy. It seems like everything is going well. Nathan is pillaging through Dan's fridge for food, and Lucas has to convince the boy to go to Keith's wedding. Deb comes, and Nathan takes the food and runs away as fast as he can. Dan is doing everything he can to screw Keith over, and look, let's not act like any of us care about this episode and cut to the main points. 1. The wedding doesn't go through because Jules runs away as fast as she can. 2. Jaylee Hames and Chris Keller have an interview on TV and they have to act like a couple for PR reasons. 3. Nathan loses his goddamn mind and drunk crashes Keith's wedding like a champ. 8. The newest addition to the Ryan Adams song counter was a different song now, with Now That You're Gone. 4. Everyone's sad now. 5. God damn it, Nikki is back in the show, so I guess they had to find a way to get rid of Jakey somehow. 6. Nathan is heading off to go get Jaylee Hames Scott back. 7. Oh no, Brooke is moving to California next week!
Yeah, episode 39 of 187.
Nikki is back and she's here to steal the baby. Wahoo! Anyhows, this is the episode where we discover how truly shitty Felix is. And now that we've established that Anna is gay, it means the FCC has given us clearance for her to say the slur out loud. She complains about her brother's shitty actions, but he's such a smug asshole that he thinks nothing's gonna stop him. Anyways, Keith confronts Dan in the dealership and they fight. And then Keith smashes the window into Dan's office, which is the first of many, many times someone will do that. Anyways, Peyton gives Anna the confidence to stand up for herself so she can get her brother expelled and sent to military school like a champion. Speaking of champion, Nathan drives and has what can only be described as a dead wife flashback. Brooke is distraught about having to move, so she tries her damnedest to move in with Peyton, but her parents aren't having it. Anyways, Felix gets called into the principal's office, and we know where this is going. Nathan continues his dead wife flashbacks as he keeps driving. Lucas is back, and he and Mom talk about Keith and how guilty he feels for not telling him about Dan's agreement. She asks if he's coming home, and he says he's staying with Dan still because he's gonna take him down somehow. Anyhow, Nathan has the third dead wife flashback of the episode. Andy offers to help Jakey get a good lawyer, but even if he calls Saul, Jakey isn't sure it's worth the risk. Brooke and Peyton are talking and hanging out, and Peyton finally breaks the news to Brooke about how terrible of a person Felix is. She heads over, and Brooke gets ultra pissy! Yeah. She literally says, quote, "I had no idea I was a grand wizard's next door neighbor," and he tries to justify his shitlord behavior and she runs. Hey, guess what time it is? It's Nathan's fourth dead wife flashback time! He's finally reached Atlanta and he's sitting in Jaylee Hames Scott's dressing room waiting for her to come back. She does and they finally talk. He's not gonna lose her. They're gonna stay married. But then he notices that she isn't wearing her ring, and he kind of shuts down. Anyways, Felix is ready to fight his sister, and then when she gets pissed, she comes out to her worthless homophobic brother. But it doesn't really matter since he's getting shipped off to military school. Anyways, just speaking of moving away, Brooke has secured housing until the summer ends because Lucas is a real hero, and maybe, just maybe, the hero will get the wrong girl. Blah blah, shots around town that don't matter except for Dan hiding something in the ceiling. Nathan drives home and both him and Jaylee take their rings off. Episode 40 of 187. As Nathan drives home, he gets a call from Taylor, and he makes a detour to go see her. Lucas begins his investigation of Dan's office hiding spot, where he finds a duffel bag full of money and a ledger book. Blah blah, the battle for Ginny continues, blah blah, Nathan visits Taylor, and the devil went down to Georgia. Brooke gets grounded because she's too busy being Brooke to engage with things responsibly. Anyways, Lucas breaks into the dealership with Andy to investigate the ceiling shits, but egads, the ceiling shit is gone! Anyways, Brooke begins to enjoy having a parent, even if it's because she's grounded. Lucas gets called to Coach's office, and Peyton's there too. Oh, hell no, this is gonna be a disaster. Coach wants to talk to Jakey, and he tells some sob story about how Nikki is unfit to be a parent. Dan and Lucas talk Sherlock Holmes and interpreting literature, only for Lucas to come home and see Brooke failing at cleaning the house. So he offers to help because the hero simply cannot end up with the right girl yet. Anna comes out to her parents after she had a subplot this episode where she spent the day with her old girlfriend from her last school. Jakey has to be a runaway again, and he's headed off again, much to Peyton's dismay, considering she simply isn't allowed to be happy. Jakey actually isn't running away this tie. He's actually turning himself in. But don't worry, he sent Ginny with Coach so Nikki won't get to keep the baby. Anyways, Danny is upping the security at the dealership, and he gives Lucas a very specific Sherlock Holmes story, and they discuss the meaning of it. Nathan comes home, checks the voicemail, and immediately deletes it when he hears it's from Haley. Peyton visits Jakey in prison. They confess that they love each other, but we all know where this is heading. Episode 41 out of 187. No one is allowed to be happy here. And seeing as that's the way it is, Nathan's Uncle Cooper is here. He's gonna try and help his nephew feel better. Consider that he's a race car driver, and you know where that's going. That's right, the boys are going on a road trip to the track. Anyhows, Dan comes to class to disrupt Karen and Andy, and guess who's gonna lose his teaching license and get deported? It's Andy. Anyways, we meet Nathan's old childhood friend, Daytona, like the game. And since this isn't an anime, there's nothing to worry about here. What there is to worry about is the boys going driving around the track. Back in Tree Hill, Peyton's a sad sack of shit over Jakey, but Karen and Brooke are gonna cheer her up. They talk about their boy problems, and then they dance and have a great time together. Their fun gets interrupted by Andy revealing he's gonna lose his teaching license. Anyways, to the track we go, where they're sitting under the stars, and guess what time it is? That's right, it's time for the 9th point on the Ryan Adams song counter, and guess what song it is? That's right, When the Stars Go Blue for the billionth time. Nathan gets up and leaves. Anyways, and Lubicus talk about how Nathan was, Mouth and Brooke hang out, and it's all going well for everyone except Andy. Anyways, Mouth, Brooke, and Erica. Erica was the woman who was the other lady candidate for the school presidential election. Just thought I should mention that. Anyways, they all spend the night together hanging out until Brooke has to continue her shift as a designated driver, and Mouth is about to get with Erica. Peyton calls Brooke, and she's having a breakdown. She picks Peyton up, and they just drive around and hang out. Anyways, it's time for the boys to drive some laps around the track, and it's been too long since someone had a car crash here in the show, so it's time for Nathan to break some rules and goes to crash into a wall at almost 300 miles an hour. He has a dead wife montage flashback and hits the wall hard. I mean, obviously, he's going like 300 miles an hour. The boy is lucky to be alive, but don't worry, he'll recover just fine and continue to basketball at a damn near professional level. Nathan is rushed to the hospital, and he tells Lucas to not call Jaylee Hames. Back in Tree Hill, Coach goes to comfort Peyton by giving her one of his signature coach speeches like a Chad. Anyways, Coach knows where Ginny is, and he tells Peyton that Ginny is in Florida, so basically they put her in hell. Anyways, word travels fast, and Brooke visits Lucas in the hospital to comfort him, and oopsie, Deb has been abusing prescription drugs. Also, Deb and Dan have been having a Looney Tunes-ass battle after the divorce goes through, but it's not important. Anyways, the episode ends with Lucas reciting a Stephen King quote out of nowhere, which took me out the first time I heard it. It's so out of left field. Anyways, everyone's sad again, and Nathan is being prepped for surgery. Episode 42 out of 187. Surgery time. Anyways, we immediately cut to Lucas at Dan's house, but for some reason it's an alternate universe where Dan chose to stay with Karen, but he still had Nathan, and so now Nathan Lee is poor and he's spending time with Lucas's boys, and we see the inverse of the first episode's shit, and I honestly don't care. It's an excuse for Lucas to act like a dick, and it's just a wacky hypothetical in Nathan's surgery dreams. He wakes up, and then he tells Jaylee Hames to stay on tour to find her dreams when she calls and says she's coming home. Episode 43 out of 187. The gang throws a movie night to help cheer Nathan up and raise money to help him pay his bills. Everyone bonds, and oh, what's this? Brooke and Lucas are getting kind of close again, huh? But Lucas also goes and comforts Peyton, so who's it gonna be, boy? Make your choice and pick Peyton for God's sake. Jesus Christ. But no, we can't do that yet. Anyways, Nathan is a sad sack of shit, and Peyton helps console him. Then Nathan realizes that Danny paid for everything, and Nathan gets pissy, which is a very real response to Dan doing anything nice for you. They fight and we do not care. Also, Dan is pushing for Nathan and Jaylee to get an annulment, but it's not gonna happen, right? Anyways, back to Broke Davis and Ukas. They kinda flirt, but who cares? Jaylee Hames Scott is coming home, let's go! But wait, Dan is backstage and Nathan signed the annulment papers. Aw, damn it! Surely this is a mistake, right? Well, who gives a shit? That's a problem for next time. Right now, though, Brooke was about to go ask Lubisky out, but then she finds a box of things he kept that Peyton gave him, because Peyton's his dream girl, do you get it yet? And I, quite frankly, don't blame him. I'd pick Peyton. Anyways, Brooke gets pissy, and it don't much matter to me. Lucas is a bit sad, though.
Episode 44 out of 187.
It's the end of school, and everything is going to shit. Brooke and Lucas are gonna go on a road trip, and oh wow, Andy's gonna get deported. Karen confronts Dan, he non-consensually kisses her, and sir, a second chair has hit the window of Dan's office. Anyways, none of this matters because Brooke and Lucas are going to New York. They chat and she's kinda flirty, kinda distant. God, I hate it here. I have to remind myself that I hate this shit every once in a while because sometimes I begin to have fun. I have to remain at a distance. Anyhows, it's a lot easier to hate this show when Chris Keller's on screen and he's being creepy. But it doesn't matter. Hell, none of this matters. The gang is slowly reassembling. Brooke goes shopping in NYC and it leaves Lucas and Haley Hames with a chance to talk all day. Oh hey, Nikki stole that damn baby again, and she's here to rub that fact in Jakey's face before she disappears. Jakey is now a broken man. Anyways, Chris Keller is on screen and I'm unhappy, and Lucas is too. He implies that he's beat the shit out of him by asking, "You ever try singing with your jaw wired shut?" And all I can think about is how Kanye launched his career with a song called Through the Wire, and he sang it when his jaw was wired shut after a car accident. So yeah, it's possible. And that joke is relevant because that album came out like a year before this episode did. Anyways, after that confrontation, Andy goes and visits Dan. Dan throws something at Andy, and sir, a third trophy has hit the office window of Dan's office. Anyways, montage time of people getting sad and trying to get their shit together, but they can't. Speaking of, Jakey breaks up with Peyton because he's got to go do some Metal Gear Rising revengeance and hunt down Nikki so he can save the baby. Andy heads home, and now every single person is a sad sack of shit. God damn, we hate the episode before a season finale.
Yar, get me episode 45 out of 187.
While doing shit at Trick, a woman comes up to Peyton, and her name is Ellie. She'll matter later. Brooke and Peyton talk, and of course, it's about Lubisky. Anyways, Ellie meets with Oyton, and they talk. Lucas pulls off a heist at the dealership, but it was all an elaborate setup by Dan because he knew Lucas was playing Sherlock the whole time in a plotline I've largely ignored. Lucas goes home and talks to Brooke. He finally, and incorrectly, confesses to Brooke the night before she leaves, and they sex, and oopsie, it was a dream. Anyhows, Deb and Dan are fighting again, and it turns out that Ellie is actually Peyton's birth mom? What in the goddamn? Anyways, Lucas is living on his own now because Mom is heading to New Zealand to go with Andy for a while. Nathan is going to the High Flyers, that special basketball camp that I mentioned like way earlier in the season. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that. I don't blame you if you did. And Nathan is kind of breaking up with Lucas in a way because he says that once he gets back from camp, they are no longer brothers and we're back to on-site violence. Ah well, nothing ever lasts forever, I suppose. But hey, Lucas comes home and he drops the whole "I love you" bomb as Brooke leaves for the summer, and damn man, that's a hard thing to just throw at someone who's already losing their mind. Anyways, it's time for Dan's end of season tragedy when someone attempted to murder him by drugging him and burning down the dealership with him inside it. And by someone, I mean it's incredibly obvious. It's not important because Jaylee Hames Scott is back in Tree Hill.
Next time on A Leg of Glazed Ham is committing to the bit and is talking about One Tree Hill.
The dealership is burning, Dan is still trapped inside, and the fire is getting more and more violent. Anyways, who gives a shit? Peyton's dealing with the fact that she has 2 moms. Peyton starts the party by blasting that sad shit. That's my girl, unironically. Lucas is standing around like a sad sack of shit at the party. That's my boy! They're apologizing, but not really, because drama.
Looks like divorce is back on the menu, boys.